This is not a ranking of the very first model kits to start with. Those are fairly well understood by now. Almost any basic kit from Tamiya or Airfix will work for your first steps. This list is for confident beginners who have already built a couple of basic models and are now looking for something more interesting. Non-obvious aircraft kits of moderate complexity that are still very achievable for less experienced builders. All models in this list are in 1 to 48 scale. I consider it the most balanced scale for aircraft modeling, especially for confident beginners. It offers enough detail to be rewarding without becoming overwhelming in size, cost, or complexity. The Dassault Rafale C by Academy. The Rafale is a European fourth-generation multi-role fighter, developed independently by France as a fully universal combat aircraft. By the early 2000s, it had become the backbone of the French Air Force, moving from a promising concept to a proven frontline machine. The Rafale C is the single-seat land-based version. Aircraft from EC-17 Provence represent a mature stage of service, with no experimental features, just a standard operational configuration. Now the model. This Academy kit is a solid choice for confident beginners looking to try a modern jet. The engineering is straightforward, the assembly process is calm and predictable, and the main parts fit together without unnecessary struggle. The cockpit is simplified, but looks convincing straight out of the box. Detail level is well balanced, enough to feel complete without overwhelming the builder. Another plus is that the kit allows you to build a visually full aircraft without additional aftermarket parts. On the downside, surface detail is moderate, and the model demands careful painting. The Rafale's clean lines make any mistakes in seams or finish immediately visible. Overall, it's a clear and manageable step forward after basic builds, modern, interesting, and focused on clean assembly, rather than fighting the kit. The Harvard Mark IIA by Italeri. Harvard is the British designation for the aircraft, better known as the North American T-6 Texan. During and after the Second World War, it was used for the final stage of pilot training, the point where basic flying skills were turned into something closer to combat readiness. The Mark IIA was one of the most common variants. It was reliable, predictable, but still demanding enough to prepare pilots for real frontline aircraft. That balance is a big part of why the Harvard became such an important training machine. As a model, this works very much in its favor. The aircraft itself is more complex than a typical single-engine fighter, but the layout is logical and easy to understand. Italeri's kit reflects that well, with a straightforward build and no real surprises. The cockpit is more interesting than on many basic fighters and remains clearly visible under the canopy. Straight out of the box, it looks convincing, with careful painting. The clean surfaces and bold color areas make this a good subject for improving paintwork without heavy weathering. Of course, this is a trainer. No weapons, no external stores, and a calmer overall look. That won't appeal to everyone. But if you're looking for something different from the usual fighters, and a build where precision and finish matter more than sheer complexity, the Harvard Mark IIA is a very solid choice. The C18S American Passenger Aircraft by ICM. This is probably the most debatable choice in the list. The C-18S was a small passenger aircraft from the late 1930s. It wasn't a mass-produced type and never became iconic, but it represents early civil aviation just before the war. What makes it controversial is that it's not a fighter and not a military aircraft at all. No camouflage, no weapons, no aggressive shapes. And that's exactly why it can make sense for less experienced builders. The ICM kit is structurally simple and easy to read. The fuselage is clean, the wing layout is straightforward, and there are no complex assemblies. The interior is present, but not overloaded, and it works well straight out of the box. The main focus here is precision rather than complexity. Large, clear parts and smooth surfaces encourage careful assembly and clean painting, without requiring advanced techniques. It's a good way to practice basic skills in a calm, controlled build. It's not the most visually striking aircraft in the ranking, but as a different kind of project, one that helps build confidence and accuracy without unnecessary difficulty, the C-18S earns its 8th place. The North American F86F Sabre by Airfix. The F-86 Sabre is one of the most recognizable early Cold War jet fighters. The F-86F represents a fully developed production version with clean lines and no experimental features. That simplicity works strongly in the model's favor. The aircraft has a straightforward layout, large main parts, and very few complex assemblies. Airfix's kit allows you to move through the build without constant test fitting or corrections. The cockpit is basic but neat, with no fragile details to worry about early on. Large, smooth surfaces make this a comfortable subject for a first attempt at metallic finishes or a clean single-color paint scheme. Detail level is intentionally restrained. This reduces the risk of mistakes and keeps the focus on clean seams, alignment, and overall finish, the skills that matter most at this stage. The Airfix Sabre is an accessible and stress-free way to step into early jet aircraft modeling. The Il-2 Sturmovik by Tamiya. The Il-2 was one of the most important combat aircraft of the Second World War. A heavily armored ground attack aircraft, it became a defining symbol of the Eastern Front. It wasn't elegant or fast. It was built to survive at low altitude and deliver damage. That character translates very well into the model. Tamiya's Il-2 is built around a simple, solid airframe, and the kit follows that logic closely. Fit is excellent, assemblies are clear, and the build stays calm from start to finish. The cockpit is restrained but convincing, and the overall layout makes alignment easy. This allows you to focus on clean assembly and basic painting rather than fixing problems. A very nice bonus is the included GAZ-67 field car. It's easy to build and naturally encourages a simple diorama. Even a small base with the aircraft and vehicle together adds context and scale, without turning the project into something complicated. As a result, this is more than just a good aircraft kit. It's a comfortable way to try a first scene and expand beyond a single model. The F5E Tiger II by Italeri. The F5E Tiger II is a compact Cold War fighter designed to be simple, affordable, and easy to operate. It isn't overloaded with systems, and its clean, straightforward shape translates very well into a model. The aircraft is small, the layout is easy to follow, and the parts count stays reasonable throughout the build. Italeri's kit lets you work through a jet fighter without the feeling that every step demands extra experience or corrections. The cockpit is basic but readable, and with careful painting it looks convincing under the canopy. Smooth surfaces and uncomplicated shapes make this a comfortable subject for working on seams and camouflage without unnecessary stress. Detail level is deliberately restrained. This isn't a kit built around fine micro detail, but one where the final result depends on clean assembly and overall balance. The F5E from Italeri is a solid way to move deeper into modern jet subjects while keeping the build controlled and approachable. The P39 Araco Cobra by Edward, Weekend Edition. The P39 Araco Cobra was one of the more unconventional fighters of the Second World War. With its engine mounted behind the cockpit, a nose-mounted cannon, and tricycle landing gear, it stood apart from more traditional designs. These features proved especially effective on the Eastern Front, where the aircraft found its strongest use. The key point here is the kit format. Edwards' Weekend Edition uses the same high-quality molds and accurate geometry as their more advanced releases, but without photo-etched parts or extra accessories. For less experienced builders, this makes a real difference. Fewer parts and fewer opportunities to make mistakes early on. Assembly stays straightforward and well-paced. Fit is precise, the plastic is clean, and the model builds confidently straight from the box. The cockpit is simplified, but with a closed canopy it looks perfectly convincing. This kit is a good entry point into Edwards' lineup. It allows you to work with high-quality tooling while focusing on core skills like alignment, clean seams, and careful painting, rather than dealing with added complexity. As a result, the P39 Araco Cobra in Weekend Edition is an accessible way to build an interesting and unusual fighter without unnecessary pressure. The Saab JA-37/AJ-37 Vigan by Italeri. The Vigan is one of the most distinctive combat aircraft of the Cold War. It was designed around Sweden's unique defense doctrine, meant to operate from short, dispersed runways. including public roads. That requirement shaped its unusual layout with a delta wing and large canards. Both versions represented here, the AJ-37 and JA-37, are fully developed operational aircraft. There's nothing experimental about them, which means a clear and well-defined configuration for the model as well. Despite its complex appearance, the Vigan is more manageable than it looks. Italeri breaks the airframe down into large, readable sections, keeping the build under control without flooding it with small parts. It asks for attention, but not advanced techniques. The main challenge here is planning rather than construction. The aircraft is large, with bold shapes that reward careful assembly and painting. The famous splinter camouflage is optional. Simpler schemes keep the project focused and approachable. For anyone looking to step away from conventional fighters and try something visually different, the Italeri Vigan offers complexity that stays within reason, which is exactly why it earns third place. The MiG-21 by Edward, Weekend Edition. The MiG-21 is one of the most widely produced jet fighters in history and a textbook example of a Cold War interceptor. Compact, fast, and built around a very direct design philosophy, it was focused almost entirely on speed and climb performance. That character carries over clearly into the model. The aircraft is small, with a clean layout and well-defined geometry. Edward's kit stays focused and controlled throughout the build, without overwhelming the process with unnecessary complexity. Here, precision matters more than part count. The MiG-21 quickly reveals issues with alignment and seams, but when handled carefully, it delivers a very convincing result. It's a great subject for practicing clean assembly and smooth, even paintwork without complicated camouflage or excessive external stores. Thanks to its simple form, strong historical presence, and high-quality tooling, the MiG-21 earns its second place in this list. First place, the Dornier Do 335 Pfeil by Tamiya. The Do 335 was one of the most unusual combat aircraft of the Second World War. Its push-pull engine layout looked unconventional, but it served a clear purpose, achieving high speed without the asymmetric thrust issues typical of twin-engine aircraft. It was a next-generation heavy fighter that simply arrived too late to make an impact. For a modeler, the key point is different. Despite its complex appearance, the aircraft is structurally very rational, and Tamiya captures that extremely well. The build is organized around large, well-defined assemblies, the sequence is clear, and the fit is precise. The process stays controlled and predictable throughout. This kit feels like a natural step forward in complexity, without a sudden spike in difficulty. It rewards careful work and attention, but never turns into a struggle or a test of patience. It's also worth noting the available kit options. The Do 335 can be built as a standalone aircraft or as part of a set with ground equipment, including a Volkswagen Kübelwagen. That version makes it easy to take a first step toward a simple diorama, adding context without significantly increasing the workload. For these reasons, the Tamiya Dornier Do 335 earns first place, not as the biggest or the flashiest model, but as the most complete and well-balanced project at this stage. These were 10 non-obvious aircraft kits for beginner modelers. Let me know in the comments what you agree with and what you don't. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.